building a better Bay Area, moving forward, finding solutions. This is ABC7 News.
Hi there, I'm Kristen Z. You're watching Getting Answers live on ABC7. We're asking experts your questions every day at 3 to get answers for you in real time. Today, is it too expensive to feed school kids organic meals? Not according to famed Bay Area chef alicewaters and state schools superintendent Tony Thurmond. They'll both be joining us to unveil a new campaign called Project Cereal. Also, a global nonprofit that provides professional attire for low-income women is making a difference here in the Bay Area. You'll meet the folks from Dress for Success and learn how you can help or receive help. But first, a humanitarian crisis is growing as Russia steps up its attack on Ukrainian cities. Around the world, stocks are tumbling and oil prices are soaring as Congress moves to ban Russian energy imports. Joining us today to talk about the latest in the Russian war in Ukraine, a former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine under President Bill Clinton and current William J. Perry Fellow at Stanford University, Stephen Pifer. Ambassador Pifer, thank you so much for your time today.
I'm happy to be here.
So, Ambassador, Russia is proposing a new ceasefire starting tomorrow that we're just in 5 Ukrainian cities. Are you optimistic that they would actually honor it?
Not based on past experience. You've had now, the last 3 days, supposed agreement to create humanitarian corridors that would allow people to leave some of the encircled cities and also allow food and medical supplies to flow in. But in each case, the Russians did not make it possible.
All right. Well, Ukraine, says civilian targets and humanitarian corridors are being hit, as you just mentioned, and we've certainly seen video of that. Can you give us an actual civilian toll so far? Is there any way to really know?
I think the number that the UN has is about 300 to 400, but I don't think we really have a good fix. I mean, you have seen some fairly massive and indiscriminate attacks in Kharkiv and Chernihiv, in some cases leveling apartment buildings. And so my guess is the Ukrainians don't yet have a good fix on the number.
Right, unfortunately. Well, Kremlin claiming that Kiev has sought to develop nuclear arms as sort of, many people say, a pretext to this war. Do you see any basis for that claim?
It's absolutely absurd. When I was in the government, I helped negotiate with Ukraine when Ukraine gave up the world's 3rd largest nuclear arsenal. When the Soviet Union collapsed, there were 4,500 nuclear weapons in Ukraine. And they gave those weapons up in large part, because the Kremlin committed to respect Ukraine's independence and its territorial integrity and committed not to use or threaten to use force against Ukraine. So the Russians have made this charge, but they've offered no specifics. And if the Russians had specifics, they could talk about where is the reprocessing facility for extracting plutonium? Where's the enrichment facility that would be necessary to produce highly enriched uranium? The Russians have no specifics. They've just made this up out of whole cloth.
Given what you just told us, do you think many Ukrainians feel betrayed?
I hear about it from the Ukrainians. We made clear when we were negotiating that document that if there were a violation by the Russians, we would be prepared to be supportive, but we would not commit American forces to their defense. And I do believe that over the last 6 years, the United States has lived up to that commitment.
Right now, what we're trying to do is to ban Russian energy imports. Let me ask you about doing so unilaterally. That is, if other nations don't join in, which many are reluctant to do so. What do you think about that?
Well, I actually believe that we should embargo oil from Russia. In part because we're asking other countries who may not have our energy situation, and we're asking them also to take steps that will be painful for their economies. But I also believe it needs to be done on a bipartisan basis, that both Republicans and Democrats have to support this, so that when the price of gasoline goes up, and that's likely to be an impact of that, it's both parties having endorsed this, and it's a step that both parties took, knowing that there would be some cost for Americans, that a cost is worth bearing in order to provide this kind of support to Ukraine.
Even though there are lawmakers on both sides of the aisle urging just that right now and saying there will be some pain, but when the pain actually happens, and that is higher gas prices, isn't it the tendency for the public to blame the party in charge? And do you think there are those in politics who are advocating doing this knowing that is the price to be paid by the Biden administration?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I have a good feel on what's driving certain political decisions. But I do think that this would be one that if both parties do seem to support Ukraine, and Ukraine has not been a partisan issue for the last 30 years, with the exception of one or two exceptions. But if there were that kind of support, and that would mean, though, that both Democrats and Republicans would have to take the lead in explaining this is why the cost of gasoline has gone up, and explaining what the United States has at stake in Ukraine.
Should we at this time be warming up to Venezuela and Saudi Arabia to increase the oil supply from those countries, countries that also don't really meet U.S. democratic and human rights ideals?
I think if you look at what the Russians are doing now to Ukraine, a war that was unprovoked, Ukraine posed no threat to Russia. This is a war of choice. And I think on the scale of things out there, I would be looking to talk to both the Saudis and perhaps even the Venezuelans about whether there's some way that they could raise their oil output to make up for any efforts to reduce Russia's oil exports.
All right, hearing about companies that have suspended their operations in Russia, including Visa and MasterCard, what is the impact from that? Who feels the pain from that?
Well, right now, I think the Russians are beginning to feel quite a bit of pain. A week ago Friday, the ruble was worth 84 rubles to the dollar. Today, I believe it hit 150 to the dollar. And there will be more economic pain to come. I feel badly in one sense that the Russian people are going to bear a large portion of that pain. But that's a result of what the crime the government of Russia is committing in their name. And then I look at what Ukrainians are going through. I mean, Ukrainians who are being bombed, who are spending nights living in basements and subways to escape artillery shelling. And I regret what's happening to individual Russians, but I think it's a necessary consequence of what the Russian government is doing.
An unimaginable human tragedy. How worried should we be about Russian cyber attack? Been hearing more warnings about that. Should we, as American citizens, be taking money or cash out from our bank accounts, fearing a Russia cyber attack on our banking system?
Again, cyber gets a little bit beyond my area of expertise. I think the U.S. government has been talking to private industry in the financial sector for some time about making our systems more resilient and less vulnerable to a cyber attack. And the Russians also have to consider that were they to launch that kind of cyber attack on the United States, that the United States likely has, they don't talk about it much, but likely has some pretty significant offensive cyber capabilities, which could be launched back against Russia. So maybe there's a sort of a mutual deterrence relationship here.
Now, if the U.S. sells sophisticated weapons like F-15 is what we're talking about right now, the fighters to Ukraine, even if it's via Poland through an intermediary, how close is that to actual war with Russia? That is, how far can we go, you think?
Yeah, well, actually, I think the plan is that the Ukrainian Air Force flies Soviet-era MiGs and Sukhois, and the idea is that the Poles might transfer to the Ukrainians some MiG-29s, and Ukrainian pilots would be familiar with those type of aircraft. And then the United States might transfer some F-16s to Poland to make up for it. That seems to be the scheme that's now being discussed. As for the danger vis-a-vis Russia, thus far, both President Biden, but also NATO leaders have made very clear that they will not send NATO forces to Ukraine to fight for Ukraine and defend Ukraine against Russia. And they've drawn that line and are pretty serious about it. But they've also made clear that they are prepared to do things to give the Ukrainians capabilities to better defend themselves. And I'm sure the Russians don't like that, but the Russians seem to have accepted that as part of the tacit rules of this very ugly game that's going on now.
As a former diplomat, I got to ask you about this. American WNBA player Brittany Griner arrested in Russia over allegedly having vape cartridges containing hashish oil in her luggage. How worried are you for her safety and those who are worried that she's going to be a political pawn?
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned. Quite frankly, if I was an American, this is not a good time to be in Russia. There are already a couple of Americans in prison. They've been there for a couple of years. That in the view of the American ambassador, Ambassador Sullivan in Moscow, that basically they have been held as pawns, perhaps to secure the release of Russians who are imprisoned in the United States.
Before we let you go, Ambassador Pifer, one last question real quickly. What is your advice to President Biden in terms of the next move and what move to avoid?
I think the administration has handled this crisis just about right. I mean, they laid out early on, here are the costs that will be imposed on Moscow. And then they said there's also a diplomatic way out. Unfortunately, the Kremlin and Mr. Putin seem uninterested in taking that diplomatic off-ramp. And so you've seen the costs being imposed. I would give the administration credit over the last 3 months. They have done the hard work, the diplomacy. I mean, the president's made the calls, senior officials. They've done a lot of work with allies to shape a much more unified Western response than one might have expected 3 months ago. Mm-hmm. And it's both in terms of how NATO's standing up its forces, it's in terms of this very painful sanctions applied on Russia. So I think, continuing that and basically making clear to the Kremlin that there will be real and painful consequences for Russia until they choose to open up a serious negotiation to end this war and withdraw their troops from Ukraine.
All right, Stephen Pifer, former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, thank you so much for your insight and time today.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back with celebrity chef Alice Waters and California Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurmond, to talk about a new initiative to get healthier foods to schools. All right, everybody, hope you had a good, safe weekend. Here's a lovely view of the Bay. We'll be right back to talk organic food in schools. Gone are the days of, school lunch, meaning hot dogs, pizza, and Jell-O only. These days, especially in California, the push is on to make school meals organic and nutritious. Two big advocates for this movement are Chef Alice Waters of Berkeley's Chez Panisse and the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurmond. They both join us today to talk about a new campaign for healthy school eating called Project Cereal. Thank you both, Alice and Superintendent Thurmond. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us on.
All right, what is Project Cereal? Tell us all about it. Alice?
Where to begin? I guess at breakfast. And this is a project that was started by the Conscious Kitchen in partnership with the school district. And they decided that it should be an organic breakfast. That means really thinking about the procurement of food.
And oh, I'm sorry. Please go ahead and finish that thought.
I was just going to say the school systems buy a huge amount of food. And if they purchase their food from the people who take care of the land and really care about our nutrition, it could be amazing.
All right, so taking advantage of that economies of scale, right, because you're serving so many students, you can buy in large quantities and bring down the cost. Superintendent Thurman, I guess the idea is to make sure school meals are healthy. First of all, let's show the viewers what happened in Richmond today. You guys kicked that off in Michelle Obama's school. I understand you were serving up the breakfast yourself. Tell me what you guys fed the kids, and did they eat it all up?
The kids enjoyed very healthy breakfast today under Alice's leadership in Conscious Kitchen. The thought is that students can get organic meals for breakfast. This kicks off a great new campaign, and it means that we can offset obesity and diabetes and heart disease and some of the other ailments that many of our young people experience. It's a great thing for California students, and we're excited to be a part of this whole effort.
Superintendent, I noted that this school is in the West Contra Costa Unified School District, where you were once trustees, so that's near and dear to your heart, right?
As a trustee, I'm a parent. Both of my children went through this school district, and this is a fine school, and we're so proud that it's been renamed for the former First Lady who championed the ideas of healthy nutrition. Today we had the first partner, a message from the first partner of our state as well, championing the importance of farm to table and making sure that we don't just take care of meals for hungry kids, but we give them nutritious meals. And so it's a great program to be a part of.
Now, Alice, is, the idea of Project Cereal that you eventually reach the goal of every meal at every school served be organic, or, talk about how you hope to see that grow, evolve?
Well, that's my vision, is that all of the food in the public schools would be supporting all the people who take care of the land for the future. And we are talking about people who are practicing regenerative agriculture organically, and it's pulling down the carbon where it belongs, bringing it down into the ground. So it's the one delicious solution we have, is to buy food locally and directly from the producers so that they get all the money, and the schools buy everything that they have. That will bring people into farming and producing food for the schools.
Superintendent, I think, right now a lot of people are worried about school budgets. Some of our biggest school districts here are having an issue with that. Will there be full support to ensure that the cost will not be a factor in terms of, being a barrier to serving healthy foods?
First of all, I just mentioned that the state is providing $47 million out of the budget for our schools to address the needs of fresh fruit and other fresh meals. The state is covering the cost for universal meals now, so that all students can have 2 meals a day in our schools, regardless of their financial background. Now, of course, there is a higher cost when you have organic meals provided, but we are saying that the cost is even greater to allow students to eat processed food and things that will have health benefits, health impacts on them. And so we think that the benefits that youth will get will outweigh the cost. Obviously, we have to work with our partners and farmers and others to get the food to our schools. The state is also underwriting the cost of upgrading many of the kitchens in our schools. And so there's always going to be some work to be done, but we believe that the benefits of healthier food will outweigh the costs that our students are experiencing in terms of health impacts.
I'm so glad you pointed out that, in fact, with the state expanding, where every kid is entitled to a school breakfast and lunch, and not just kids who are low income, that means more kids are consuming meals served by the schools. So therefore, it really affects everybody, the degree of the healthiness, nutrition in the food. Okay, but before we let you go, Alice, I have to say congratulations to you, because Chez Panisse is reopening tomorrow, the dining room. How excited are you about this happening?
I am very excited, very emotional at this moment, because it's been 2 years. We've been doing a lot of food to go, but we are really going to have people in the restaurant for the first time.
Are there any changes? Either it's in your vision as a result of 2 years of, not having the dining room open, or any procedural things that they need to know about that are different?
Well, I know we're going to have some new employees and we're just working with them right now, but it's something, it's like getting on the bicycle again. and we just have to do it. And we're going to be right in time for asparagus season and salmon, local salmon. So I'm looking forward to being there.
Well, congratulations. I know you just celebrated 50 years, which is simply amazing. And that's right. You eat fresh, eat what's, local and in season right now. And why shouldn't that apply to our school kids? Tony Thurman, thank you as well for making this happen.
Thank you.
Both of you, congratulations. See you soon.
Congratulations. Thank you.
All right, coming up next, we want to talk about helping women succeed in the workplace. So we'll talk to the organization Dress for Success about its latest initiatives. We'll be right back. All right, everybody. Boy, school food has gotten so good, like in the last decade, and happy to see it and happy to hear it. So stick around for our next interview. In the meantime, enjoy this lovely view of the watershed of, where is this? East Bay Hills camera. Welcome back. The organization Dress for Success has provided professional clothing and other forms of support to low-income women all around the world, including thousands here in the Bay Area. ABC7 is a proud media sponsor for the upcoming Dress for Success Gala, as the nonprofit is working to build a better Bay Area, just like we are. And joining us live to talk about the organization's latest initiatives, the executive director of Dress for Success San Francisco and San Jose, Erin Badillo, and Dress for Success client Drew Tuphorn. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Erin, I'll start with you. Dress for Success is about clothes, but it's also about so much more. Tell us about all the wonderful ways in which your organization supports women.
Of course, yeah. Providing professional clothing will always be foundational to what we do at Dress for Success, but we're lucky to be able to provide all sorts of programs for free to our clients, including job search support, professional development, employment retention, and financial literacy, as well as most recently technology support as well. And fundamentally, all of that allows us to provide confidence and a community of support to our clients.
All right, well, Drew Tuphorn, how did you get connected with Dress for Success?
I was lucky to have a really good case management at my supportive housing, but I think as an organization, Dress for Success is well known throughout California. I mean,
can I just say you are Dress for Success right now? I'm looking at you and I'm loving that outfit. Is that Dress for Success?
Absolutely. Everything I have on is Dress for Success. I mean, not only are their clothing and their jewelry and everything, it's just all about just equity and just making you feel good and empowerment. It's just really nice to have this kind of support to help us with our financial. security.
How would you say this support has changed your outlook and opportunities?
I think I was immediately transformed when I was at my shooting. And then from there, I was able to, love myself again. And with that confidence, it really grew from a seed and it really sprouted. And from the shooting, I went right to their 6-week job training program, which they provide every year, twice a year. And it was really great training. It really helped me build my confidence because I was able to have somebody edit my, what I have on paper and help me with transferable skills. And then moving on to their financial literacy program with Capital One and the many volunteers in this community that are helping women like myself who are single fixed income parents, on CalWorks, who don't have additional funding, for the right outfit or, the right shoes that I might need. And so it's really nice to have an organization that can help, ease your mental health.
Yeah. Erin, let's talk about the clothing aspect. I know you take great care to match the clothes with the person and that all your stuff is very quality stuff that brings out the confidence in the women you work with. Where are you still taking donations now? Or I should ask, are you taking them again? Because I know during the pandemic, many organizations were not accepting donations.
We are. We definitely encourage, obviously, financial donations because it supports all of our programs. But we do provide clothing drop-off times at least once a month. And we have a new website, and all that information is on our new website, which I'm sure you guys will share at sfdress.org. And at least once a month, we do a clothing drop-off day here at our office in San Francisco.
All right. Well, it is International Women's History Month, and I know as part of that, you have the 31 Days of Power campaign. Tell our viewers about it real quickly. We have about 20 seconds.
Sure. The Your Hour Her Power campaign asks people to donate the equivalent of 1 hour of their salary to support the women we serve. In addition, we're highlighting 7 Bay Area women leaders who have made that pledge from companies like Salesforce, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, and other great leaders in the community to help us with all of our programming. And that builds on a worldwide campaign that includes women like Scarlett Johansson, Robin Roberts from Good Morning America, and many other women.
We'll have to continue this conversation on Facebook. I'm so sorry to interrupt. We'll take a short break and be right back. All right. Gosh, I always wish we had more time, and time is always against us. We have to pay the bills and run the commercials. But we do have Facebook Live right now where we're still talking, and we have a couple minutes to finish this conversation. So please do tell me, because I think you mentioned a few Bay Area women being honored. One of them is my colleague, Dion Lim, right?
Yes, Dion is amazing. Dion is both an honoree at our upcoming gala and one of our 7 women in power from the Bay Area. We are highlighting her for her excellence in journalism and especially for her work covering the Asian American hate crimes that unfortunately have been a big factor over the last few years. And she's one of the women that we're highlighting for her professional accomplishment as well as her commitment to elevate women for Dion in journalism and throughout the Bay Area.
Fantastic. Now, I do know that the March 18th gala, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're sold out, right?
We are sold out, which is a very lucky thing for us.
It is. So the best way for folks to support you, I know you mentioned both the cash donations and also the clothing. Where should people go to get started if they want to give you help or they feel like they need to receive help and would like to get in contact with you?
Totally. So all of that information is on our website at sfdress.org. So SF like San Francisco, dress.org. And we have both a place that you as a prospective client can fill out a form to get support. And if you're interested in donating financially or donating clothing or getting involved as a volunteer, all of that information is on our website. And obviously we have social media and all of that where you can kind of learn about upcoming activities. And we'd love people to share and get involved during the rest of Women's History Month in March.
All right, a great time to get involved with Dress for Success. You've been doing great work for a long time in Jutaporn. Congratulations. Best of luck to you as you pursue your career. But you got the look down. You totally got the look down.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Congrats to you both. Thank you so much for sharing your stories.
Having us.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. I have seen their closet, so to speak. They have the best clothes. It's really awesome. And it's not just about the clothes. As you heard, they also provide resume writing, so much good stuff. Thank you so much for joining us today on this interactive show, Getting Answers. We'll be here every weekday at 3, on air and on live stream, answering your questions. World News Tonight is coming up next, and I'll see you here at 4 o'clock.